Welcome to FailCraft, the podcast where we dive into the messy, real side of success and explore how setbacks become the stepping stones for growth and clarity. I'm your host, Ezekiel Iferia, and today's guest is Audley Stephenson. He is the host of the Audacious Living Podcast, where he has recorded over 600 episodes exploring what it means to live boldly. But Audley doesn't believe that audacity means making loud, reckless, or grand gestures. He believes true audacity is found in everyday courage, the quiet decision to choose yourself and keep going when life doesn't give you a perfect script. He's the author of the upcoming book, Living Your Best Audacious Life, and is here to talk about the myths of boldness, the fail forward advantage, and why true courage is often completely silent. So, Audley, I am super excited and honored to welcome you to the show. Thank you very much for joining us.
Ezekiel, this is so awesome. I appreciate this. Listen, I have such a love for the work that podcasters do and the vehicles that they use to share and impact the audiences, impact the world. And so, I mean, being a podcaster myself, I understand the value of the work that you're doing, and I appreciate the chance to break bread here with you a little bit.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here, sir. So let's get started, Audley. You talk about quiet audacity. Sometimes in society we think that being bold means quitting your job in a blaze of glory or climbing a mountain. Is it a failure of the self-help industry convincing us that if our courage isn't loud, it doesn't count?
No, I wouldn't put it as a failure of the industry per se. I think what happens is because there are messages out there that talk about this, but what's happening is the loud, audacious, right? Those that make the most noise when they come in the room, they're getting all the attention, right? So if I'm not climbing the mountain, if I'm not jumping in the Atlantic Ocean fighting with sharks, or I'm not quitting my job, like you said, I'm not being audacious. And that's actually one of the myths that I tackle and really point out that absolutely not. I think at any point that you step up and maybe step out of your comfort zone, use your voice when you're often silent, or maybe set boundaries in personal relationships and you've never done that before. I think those are all audacious acts, and it's for that reason I truly believe that audacity is everywhere. It truly, truly is. And the way I sort of like to frame it is, if you think of life as life as being, life is one big racetrack. Okay. Those are cars on that racetrack, and audacity is the engine inside of the car. And so that engine will determine how far you go, how fast you go, but it's a matter of actually using it. And you know what's really interesting is, as of late, as I've been speaking on this platform for quite some time, and I encounter more and more people, and Ezekiel, you'd be surprised how many people will say, I wish I was audacious. And I'm going, you are. You've told yourself that you're not. You've told yourself that it's not for you. You told yourself that you believe that it doesn't exist when in fact it does. And if you need proof of that, watch a baby learning how to walk. One of the most cutest things forever, first and foremost, right?
Yeah.
One of the cutest things at all times. But watching a baby learn how to walk, they get up. First of all, they have the audacity to say, I'm not going to crawl anymore. I'm going to stand up, right? And they take that first step and they wobble, and they may take another step and they may fall down again. But audacity, the true audacity, is getting up again. And what does that baby do? It gets up and tries again. So if a baby can demonstrate audacity without being taught it, no one instructed it, no one said, here's a game, here's a 12-point process on how to be audacious, then I submit that it's in every single one of us for that reason. It's naturally there. We either lost along the way, we forgot we had it, or we just don't tap into it.
All right, Audley, that's a really great way to put things. So you teach the fail forward advantage. So what is the difference between someone who fails and gets stuck and another person who uses the exact same failure as a launch pad? Here on FailCraft, we talk about setbacks and failures, and we see them as stepping stones to success. But what's the difference between someone who actually fails and gets stuck rather than seeing it as a stepping stone?
I will tell you, and so I'll answer your question. Before I do, I need to absolutely say that what I absolutely love about your platform is that you're highlighting failure. So often, we don't tell the messy parts of our stories. We don't tell the parts of the stories that we go, oh, well, I dropped the ball or I messed up. We kind of leave that hidden and we put that, that doesn't make our highlight reel. That doesn't make our social media feeds. We sort of put that in the back because we want it all to look good. And I think there's such power and importance in telling and sharing our failures, because it, first of all, it humanizes us. And it really, we're all going through this journey of life together on it. We're humans and we have the same human experience, not the same specific circumstances, but I think the experience as being a human being of trying something and failing, it's all the same. And so being able to highlight and spotlight that, I think, is really, really important. And I love that. The other part that I love about what you do is, so if I'm going through something that's difficult and it's hard and I've never done it before and it's painful and it's like all those negative stuff, right? All those negative things that happen to me and I'm going through it. It's so easy to think nobody on the planet has any idea what I'm experiencing, doesn't know what it feels like. This problem is just for me and me alone. No one in the history of mankind, no one's ever gone through it. That's not true. There truly is nothing new under the sun. So everything that's happened has happened already. So imagine for a moment that person is in that dark place because of what they're experiencing and what they're going through. And someone else casually comes along and goes, oh, yeah. That happened to me last week. Oh, and here's what I did. And here's how I got through it. And off because it's no big deal because they're on the other side of that. And imagine how empowering that is for someone who feels that they're totally alone and hears that, oh, that's all you got to do? Like, that's an empowering message. And so the sharing part is so important. Again, going back to I think why this platform is so important. With respect to your question, I truly, truly think the difference between those two people, there's an expression I oftentimes say that a failure isn't truly a failure until you walk away from an experience without the lesson. I want to say that again because it's very, very key. A failure truly isn't a failure unless you walk away from the experience without the lesson. That's the difference between those two individuals that you described. If you go through, because the reality is that if you, let's say you're trying something for the very, very first time. Yes, there's going to be a percentage of the population, there's natural high achievers are going to knock it out of the park the first swing at the bat. No question about that. But I like to think that the vast majority of us don't fall into that category. The vast majority of us needs to kind of go through the motions to figure it out. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you go through an experience and you haven't figured it out, you're destined to make that same mistake over and over and over again. So it's those individuals that stop, that slow down, that analyze, that figure out, and that make new attempts to try again. And trying again, that's a piece of it that's really, really important, because it's very easy to go, oh, it didn't work. Oh, well, and you move on. But it's those individuals who get up and try again. Thomas Edison talked about the invention of the light bulb, and he didn't fail 1,000 times. He just found 1,000 ways not to do something. And that's what we're talking about. Like, and each time you go through something, you walk away. So the fail forward advantage really encourages individuals that you take setbacks and you turn them into comebacks. And that's really what it is. It's recognizing that failure, that thing that happened, it doesn't define you. It doesn't mean that's who you are. What defines you is a response to those failures, right? It's what you do. If you roll over and say, oh my gosh, woe is me, my life is over, it's not going to happen. Or do you say, okay, I got that. And am I trusting in myself that I'm going to use those life stumbles, stepping stones, as you said? And I think that if we're able to master that getting through it, and I get it. Listen, I totally, Ezekiel, I get it. There's something that you really, really want. There's something that you tried hard for, you prepared for. It was, at the top of your wish list, and you made that attempt, and it doesn't work out. I get that's disappointing. Absolutely. I don't want to dehumanize that. I want to honor the feelings that you go through for the disappointment that you experience. But I also want to add to that is feel that feeling, have that emotion, but also recognize that there's another opportunity. as long as you have breath in our bodies, another day to look forward to, there's another opportunity to try again. And we need to get past that. And I think what happens is by embracing the fail forward, it gives you an opportunity to reframe what failure truly is. Does that make sense?
Yes, Audley, that was an absolutely amazing response. That was a really, really powerful quote you said there. A failure isn't truly a failure unless you walk away from that experience without a lesson. It actually made me reflect on, some of my past setbacks or failures that happened or seemed to be really awful at that particular point where it happened. And it felt bad at first, but then, like you said, you have to pick the lessons from them. And also you talk about the importance of trying again. And I noticed that for as many times as I failed and I went back to try again, after picking up the lessons, I did better than I could have ever done if I got it right the first time. So
that's right.
I totally agree with what you said here.
Because you paid attention to the lesson. That's exactly what you did.
Yes.
And again, I get it. Like, I wanted this thing really, really badly. It didn't work out. Okay, I know. I don't want to act like those feelings aren't real, because they are. But when we talk about the next opportunity, and also like the idea of trying again, what that also does, it builds our resilience. It makes us stronger. And so, and I bet when you think about those experiences that you had and you reflect on what you did, you look at them now and you're like, okay, all right, cool. Like they're not a big deal, but in the moment they probably mattered, right? And so it really goes back to, I want to jump into something I call the BOLD framework, okay? And the BOLD framework, it's an acronym, BOLD. The second letter of that framework is what we're talking about. I'm going to jump to that and go back to the beginning. I don't mean to jump back and forth, but I think it's very applicable here, because the O in that framework stands for outlast adversity, right? And that's key, is recognizing, listen, bad things are going to happen. We're going to be disappointed. We're going to have setbacks. We're going to have challenges. But the key is to outlast that, because on the other side of those challenging, difficult, hard periods is where the greatness lies. But you'll never, ever get there is if you quit because you took the first swing at the bat and you missed. In baseball, they give you 3 strikes. They give you 3 strikes in baseball. So if you miss the first one, okay, all right, there's another one. So outlast adversity, the B in that framework, so it's BOLD, the B is for better than yesterday. It's the whole idea, whole concept of continuous improvement. So yes, you climbed this mountain today and it was a wonderful feat. And I hope you're proud of yourself, and I hope you celebrated, and I hope that you feel inspired of what you had done. Now there's another one you can climb tomorrow that's even bigger. Go after that one. Like, you don't rest on your laurels and go, okay, yeah, I did this thing. It's the equivalent of, I joke sometimes, I say, yeah, when I was in, if a 40-year-old man is still touting the accomplishments of his Little League baseball team when he was 12 years old, there's something wrong. Like it's time to move past that experience. Yes, you're 12 years old, it was a big deal. At the age of 40, there's other things you should have accomplished by now. And it's really pushing you to continue move forward. So it's better than yesterday. The O is outlast adversity, as I explained. The L is called live your truth. It's really tied into authenticity. And oh my goodness, this is such an important one. Our lives are a continuous pathway. We're on this pathway. And it's so important that I live my path. It was destined for me, as opposed to, what I see Ezekiel doing. And yes, Ezekiel, you're doing some great things, but that's meant for yours. What's mine? And so living your truth really encourages you to keep eyes locked forward. You can look from side to side, maybe you can learn from some things, right? But what's on my path is mine. And the last one is disrupt the norm, which is really about going off that beaten trail, not following what everyone else does. You think of great inventors like the Wright brothers who revolutionized aviation, which is such an important part of our society and how we exist now. But you think, like I oftentimes joke and say, what if people around them, what are they thinking? The doubters were saying about them, like, flying is for the birds. You can't do that. It's impossible. But they did anyways. They tried it anyways. And now look at how important it is to us. And so BOLD, that's the bold framework. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on a tangent there, but I thought it was really applicable that we touched on that.
Indeed, Audley. So yeah, you've already touched on the bold framework. So let's dwell on it for a while. You teach this system called the bold framework. Yeah. So when someone is paralyzed by the fear of making a mistake, so how does this framework help them take the first terrifying step?
Well, again, I would go back to the outlasting adversity. I think that's really the starting point. recognizing that. So here's the reality. Because we're all part of sort of the human experience, part of that is that adversity naturally is going to come. It's going to happen.
Mm.
If your listener out there is going, oh my gosh, I didn't know that, I'm going to ring the alarm clock. Yes, it's going to happen. The other thing the other thing about failing, that's also, which is not going to happen, I should say, is no one is going to knock on your door and say, hey, Ezekiel, at 3:00, there's really bad things going to happen. You should just get ready, okay? Because that's not right. And so, bearing that in mind, when things happen, we've got to respond. We've got to respond, and that's where the outlasting adversity comes in. The fear that you talk about, I would really challenge people to go, well, what is it rooted in? Does that fear come from the fact that you tried already and you didn't fail, or you weren't successful? Because if that's the case, then I would say let's talk about what the fail forward advantages is. Let's talk about that a bit more, and what were the lessons that you've taken from that to help you achieve better the next time around, right? Or is a failure something that someone else told you about? Okay, that's their experience. It's not your experience. So I think where I'm going with this is really understanding where the failure comes from, because we all have limiting beliefs. We all have thoughts and doubts and things that are in our heads that just get there. We don't know how they get there, and we all kind of operate on autopilot, and we go with them. We never really dig deep. We never explore. But I really think it's important to sort of challenge those beliefs. And one of the ways that we challenge those beliefs, and I'll share this with you. Think about your life, Ezekiel. And if there is anything that you say, I always do this in this situation, I only do this, or I never do that. Always, never, and only. Those are the really three powerful words, because they lock you into a certain line of behavior. What you really simply want to do in those situations, when you have those things that you only, never, or always, when you have those situations, just simply ask yourself why. Why do I believe that? Where is this coming from? And in the coaching space, they oftentimes talk about asking yourself why 5 times. So why did I do this?
Yeah.
Because of this. Why? And it encourages you to keep digging,
Yes.
and then you'll get to the root of the matter. So I'll tell you a really quick story. So when I was a kid, our family used to go to church. Right, we went to church every Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom insisted that I have these special church shoes. I only wear these on Sunday. These were my Sunday shoes. And really, because I wore them any other day of the week, I'd destroy them. As a kid, I would just destroy my shoes. So she wanted me to have something nice to wear to church, right? And that's how I grew up as a child. Well, I go into adulthood, and I realized that I still had Sunday shoes. And it wasn't until I said, why can't I wear these shoes on Wednesday? Like, why can't I wear them Saturday? And it's because the reason why is I had this belief that no, these shoes were only reserved for this day. And I don't have Sunday shoes anymore. I've since let that go. But I think what happens is it allows you to question things, because the reality is there was a point in time that I needed those Sunday shoes. But they no longer serve me as an adult. So the fears that we taught that are out there, maybe at one point in time, they were grounded in something real. But how do we know that's still real anymore? So again, always, never, and only. Look at those words in your language, your lexicon, and if they exist, ask yourself why 5 times. And oftentimes, you'll realize that they aren't real fears at all.
All right, Audley. So you say that Audacity is about choosing yourself. So does that feel selfish to a lot of people? And also, do we often feel our own potential because we are too busy trying to please everyone else?
We do. I think that's a beautiful question, and you're absolutely right. Fail ourselves and choose ourselves, right? We absolutely do.
Yeah.
I talk about airplanes. I mean, on an airplane, what does the pilot say, right? If the oxygen masks come down, does they put it on yourself first before telling the
Yes.
others? And I know for mothers out there, that's a very difficult thing to hear. Like if you're a mother out there and you've got your child, it's extremely, extremely difficult. But the truth of the matter is, if you're not good to yourself, then you're not of any service to anyone else. And so you absolutely have to look after yourself first. And if it feels selfish, you're right, because it does, and it is, right? And I think selfish. I think selfish as a word, I think it gets a bad rap because it's seen as a negative thing, and it absolutely is not. If I'm not in a good place, I'm not feeling good, I need some time to myself, then being selfish is very, very important. And yes, put yourself first is key. And so I denounce any sort of negativity that's connected to the word selfish, because I think it actually be a very, very good thing. And going back to why I think audacity is everywhere, because being selfish can be a very, very bad thing. Think of a single mother that's raising 3 young kids. They need time to themselves, right? Because they need a break. They're exhausted. They're overworked. You name it. It's out there, right? And so that mother needs to take time for herself, or she's not of service to her children. In our personal lives, sometimes, the hardest thing sometimes in our personal lives, especially with family members, is setting boundaries. Setting boundaries in which, maybe, I'm not letting this person cross this boundary. I'm not letting them hurt me. I'm not letting them disrespect me. I'm not letting them violate me, whatever that looks like. Like, it's so important to have those boundaries. That can be seen as a selfless act, but it's a necessary one for your own self-preservation and care. And so, absolutely, I think being selfish, it can be a very, very good thing. There's some good aspects to it, but we are letting ourselves down if we don't choose ourselves first, for sure.
All right, that's a really great perspective you put into there, Audley. So, for the listener in our audience who knows they needs to make a change but is terrified of actually failing, so what is the smallest, quietest act of audacity they can do today to start getting rid of that fear of failure?
Yeah, I would question the fear. I'd go right back to that. What is this? Is this fear real? Is it real? And that's that very much is an internal conversation, right? And I get that. I think though, when you sort of what the outwardly can be done, take that first step. You never know. As opposed to thinking it'll work out bad, ask yourself, what if this works out? What if I take the swing in the first time at bat and I knock it out of the park? What if? Right. So it's really about reframing. But it goes back to that first step. Martin Luther King Jr. has a quote where he talks about taking that first step when you can't see the entire staircase. It's too dark. You don't know what's around the corner. But you step anyways because you don't know what's there. And so we can question, we can wonder, we can say what if, we can strategize, we can analyze, we can break it all down, we can do the research, we can look at the analytics and review the stats. We can do all of that. But until we take that first step, we never really, truly, truly ever know. And the other thing that I want to remind people is when it comes to problems and problem solving, we're undefeated. And the reason why I know that is because we're here right now. There hasn't been a problem that's derailed us to the point we can no longer continue. We've overcome every possible problem that we face. Now, maybe the outcome isn't exactly what we wanted. Maybe it was a slight detour. Maybe it was exactly what we wanted. So we have to remember that we have a track record behind of the successes that we don't oftentimes give ourselves credit for. And that's why I think I'm a big believer in celebrating your wins. Celebrate them. Show gratitude to the experience that you have. Appreciate the things that you encounter. I think all of these things go far in terms of our overall development and getting us to a better place. And so I would say, without question, celebrate the wins. Show up in a big, big way. Be ready at all times to be able to say, hey, I saw this, I encountered it, I faced it head on. And here I am. And it didn't knock me out of the park. I'm still here. I'm still fighting. I've outlasted the adversity. But it all goes back to taking that first step. That's key in all this.
All right. Only that was a really powerful piece of advice, and I sincerely hope it helps someone listening in our audience. So here's a personal one for you, Audley.
Yeah.
After 600 episodes, writing a book and defining what it means to live boldly, I'd like to know, what does being successful truly mean to you now?
When I look back at my journey, and thank you for the question, because I think as time, as you go through new experiences, you gain wisdom, insights, understandings of the world around you as well as yourself. That definition of success evolves. And I can tell you, for me, it's nothing material. It's got nothing to do with how much money I make, the status, my title, how much books I sell, bestseller, all that kind of stuff. It's not connected to any of those things at all. For me, it really, truly is about impact. I want to have impact. but I want to do it using my natural gifts. And I believe at the end of the day, if I've used my gifts to the best of my ability, if they've made a difference or had a positive impact, that's to me is successful. That's where my success lies. And using my gifts continually, it inspires me, motivates me, allows me to be more creative, think of more ideas. I look at opportunities like to be on your podcast, Ezekiel. It gets me motivated and excited because I know that I'm using my voice, my experiences, the knowledge to help shorten someone else's learning curve, to help them make it a little bit easier, or maybe give them that push. That to me is where true success lies. It's not a material things. It's not what you've done, the mountains you've climbed, those are the sharks that you've fought in the Atlantic Ocean. It's none of those things. It's what at the end of the day, it's the difference that you've made in people's lives. So I'm based in Toronto, Canada. And years ago, I used to work as an usher at the arena. I'm a big basketball guy, right? So the Toronto Raptors, they play on the Scotiabank Arena. And years ago, I was an usher. I just went to Ezekiel because I wanted to watch free basketball. That was my motivation. And so that's what I was there for. And I remember, and they always encouraged us. They said, you want to make this a great fan experience. You want to make them feel good. Fans that come there, many are coming for the first time, give them an experience. And I always strive to do that. And I remember years later, after I stopped working there, it was on social media, and I got this random message from someone, and they're like, "Hey, Audley, I remember you." And I looked at this person like I didn't know who she was, and she talked about how she had such a great time. It was the first time coming to a game, and she had such a great, and she was laughing and all kinds of stuff. And thank you. It was lots of thank you. I've never forgotten that. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I said, "Oh wow, that's great." I looked at, and so I'm looking at their profile, and I'm like, I don't know who this person is. Like, I don't know. I'm like, maybe she got mistaken. Maybe she made a mistake. She's got me confused with someone else. And then what she did is she sent me a photo that her and I took there together. And I looked at this photo, Ezekiel, and I'm going, that's definitely me. I still don't know who she is.
Oh,
I still have no idea who she is. But I tell this story because the reason why I don't know who she is, didn't remember who she was at that time, is because I wasn't going out there saying, okay, I'm going to make a difference to that person. I'm going to do something that they'll always remember and never, ever forget. I was operating my natural self, using the gifts and just naturally being who I am, allowing them to have the impact that they're destined to have. And I did it with her. And that's where, so going back to success, that to me is what success is all about, and having the impact the right way and being memorable in people's lives, and at the same time changing them in whatever way, shape, or form is possible. And so, yeah, that's what I look at as being successful.
great. That's a really amazing measure you've attributed to being successful, Audley. And thank you very much for also sharing it with us. So lastly, for our listeners who want to tune into the Audacious Living Podcast, pre-order your book, or just connect with you, Audley. So where is the best place for them to go?
Yeah, so my website is the hub. It is audaciouslife.com. That's connect to all information about me, my book coming out later on this year. The podcast, there's over 600 episodes. The goal is to get to 1,000 and we'll see what happens next, right? But maybe if I go back to the bold framework, be better than yesterday, get to 1,000. Okay, let me get to 2,000 and just kind of keep going, because there's always more to do. There's always more to accomplish. There's lots of world out there to live. And so why limit yourself and stop? And so, maybe 1,000 is where the milestone is. To celebrate my win. So I'll get up there and say, great, great, great. And the next day I'll do 1,001. But yeah, Best Audacious Life is where you can learn about the Audacious Living Podcast. I'm on social media as well. Audley Stephenson, or the Oddman, TheAudman. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, or X now, and I still call it Twitter. But Instagram, X.
Yeah, we all like to.
LinkedIn is Audley Stephenson. TikTok is the Oddman. That's where I'm just sharing audacious messages and words, whether I'm encouraging individuals. We're sharing a lot of stories about individuals who've had failures, similar to yourself, where we talk about failures, we talk about stories of resilience, we break down Audacity. There's a cross-section of different topics and guests, and it really is a wonderful, fruitful dialogue and conversation. Yeah, you can join me there, connect with me. And then the book, it's called Living Your Best Audacious Life ever. And that's the latest. It's slated to come out later this year. I don't have an exact date yet, but if you stay connected with me, we'll have it all lined up and let you know how you can be a part of the Audacious journey.
Great. Audley, thank you very much for sharing all of the different means to connect with you, find you, or get your resources here with us here today. And also, thank you very much for the really amazing conversation, really inspirational talk. And I am truly, truly excited to have you as a guest here today. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Much appreciated, Ezekiel. This has been awesome, my friend. Keep pushing forward, keep doing the work. The subtitle, if I go back to my book, Living Your Best Audacious Life, and the subtitle is How Unleashing Your Inner Greatness Can Change the World. And I think the way we change the world is we all do our part, and you certainly doing yours. So I commend you, thank you, and wish you all the best down the road.